Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review for If We Were Villains by ML Rio. This is an adult dark academia story that follows primarily our main character of Oliver, who was previously 10 years ago a part of a Shakespearean school. I mean, it's more like a liberal arts school, but like the section of the school that he was a part of in university was a Shakespeare-focused acting program in which him and 7 other students were like this sort of found family, but also very toxic dynamic. And something happened 10 years ago. At the beginning of the story, he is getting out of prison for something that happened during that time, and he is recounting his tale of that time because no one besides the ones that were there really knew the truth of all that happened, and we are experiencing all of that through their senior year of this program. This was a book that was voted on by my Patreon supporters for me to read and review, so every month my supporters over there get to vote in a book that I'll read, and if you want to do that as well and contribute to my content in that way, I will link my Patreon on the screen. So this is a very well-loved dark academia story, and I wasn't sure because there's been some dark academias that people have really loved that I haven't loved so much, and this I did find pretty enjoyable, but not perfect. So first, let me get into the world building and the atmosphere of this. So this is a completely like contemporary story, sort of like mystery, right? Like contemporary. There's no kind of fantastical elements or anything, but the writing in here almost feels fantastical at times. It's not magical realism, it's not any of that, but the way that they depict the school setting that I almost thought was like a real school. I had to look up because I was like, I've never heard of that school because it's supposed to be in Illinois, like a little bit north of Chicago, and I was like, what? It's not real, but it feels real. And just the setting and the different plays that they're in, because throughout the school year they are putting on different performances of pretty well-known Shakespeare plays because they are in the tragedy year, which is the 4th years doing tragedies, which is connecting to what's going on with them, but I'll get more about that in the plot and stuff. But in the atmosphere and like the atmosphere of the school and this like small school feeling, this small liberal arts school, this book feels sepia toned. I know that's dark academia and that's kind of like the vibe, but it does feel that way. Next, I'm gonna talk about our characters. So we have these 7 characters that all have sort of their parts to play. And again, from the get-go, this is written in a way that like sometimes it almost feels like a like stage script, like a play, and sometimes it reads like normally, but each of the characters has the tropes that they are defined by and how they are cast in different performances over the years and how they're trying to break free of that, but also how they are that. And so again, we have this contrast of like, who are these people? Are they more than their tropes? How they all view each other, their different parts to play, whatever. The one thing that tripped me up a little bit was some of the like sort of romantic things happening are they're not, some of them are vague and some of them aren't, but there's definitely some moments like with some of the characters that I was like, wow, I don't quite get your motivations. But for the most part, and that's mostly with the romance stuff, but for the most part, the character motivations and things like all make sense about like why some of these things happened. And also these characters are like understandable. People that you're like, wow, Leah, like I know these types of people, right? The villainy of some of the characters, the messiness of like this group of people, they all speak to each other frequently in like random Shakespeare lines. So like the pretentiousness of it, but I don't find the writing in this to be pretentious. Some people might disagree. But like when I compare this to like the Atlas 6, for example, by Olivia Blake, which is another dark academia, this I don't find pretentious. That I did, because that was like overly done. This feels correct, and then the character's pretentiousness feels correct. So next we talk about our plot. We had this nice mix of like day in the life of them as they're all sort of falling apart, and then the mystery of what happened. Because you know at the beginning that like Oliver was in prison, why? Like what happened? What was the breakdown of everything? And so we get him like again telling the story and then us seeing it. And so this like suspense, it's made into like 4 acts. So again, it's like playing up this play dynamic. It just leaves you being like, okay, what is happening with all these character dynamics, but also what is happening with this mystery? So that I also found compelling all the way through. This is not a story that I can see myself necessarily rereading. I liked it, but there were, again, definitely some points that I found weren't quite as strong with some of the, again, those like romantic things kind of. But overall, I really like what this did. As far as dark academia that I've read, this is one of my favorites that I've read. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And if they make a movie out of this, I will definitely watch it. I have a few things that are spoilery that I want to talk about, so I will be doing a spoilery gush on this, so I'll link that on the screen. But comment down below, let me know what you thought of If We Were Villains. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.